right, my friends, here we go. Still want to talk about selling your practice, preparing, and we're going to go deeper here. A lot of reflection back on the last 5, 10 years. Well, I'd say really the last 5 years and what I've learned and what I've seen and what I've helped other people do and the carryover into 2023 and beyond. I mean, it doesn't matter when you're listening to this because we're doing this in 2023. And I truly believe I'm sharing it with you today because I believe it's going to carry on into the future. Future meaning indefinitely. So forward. So if you want to get a jump on this now, and the thing is, I'm not selling you either or. I want to give you the mindset of understanding what you are choosing and choose one. I've done this before. I talked a lot about this. If you've listened to any of my stuff with being a commodity versus being an expert, right, in how you manage your scheduling and sales process in your business. Right. And I tell everybody all the time, if you want to be a commodity, choose that route and go hardcore forward. But what you don't want to do is live in the middle, because so many people tell me, yeah, we're experts, we sell expertise. And then they manage this potential client, like they're selling a commodity. And I'm like, you may think you're doing this, but what the purchaser, the potential client, potential patient is hearing is exactly the opposite. I don't want you living in that world. I want you to choose, not be in the gray, and be successful whatever route you go. Okay. I'm going to bring up some terms today, and we're going to, I'm going to bring them all up, and then we're going to continue to expand on them so you can take them to heart and you can choose. And today, really what I want to talk about is a healthier business, right? Which sounds like a pretty high level topic, and oh my God, we're going to be high level and it's going to be all kinds of shit. And I'm going to go, no, I'll give you the keys to a healthier, not healthy, right? We might argue healthy, but we're going to say healthier business. And before you can have a healthier business, here's where we're going to start, right? We're going to start with talking about, do you have a practice or do you have a business? Have you created a job or have you created a business? This is really important. Probably cycle back to this about every 20 to 30 YouTubes or podcasts or posts, right? And really, if you haven't read E-Myth, no matter where you are in the journey, I would highly recommend you go back and read Michael Gerber's E-Myth. So in the first books I read over 20 years ago, and it still impacts me every day. I referenced it the other day with someone said something to me and it just automatically came to mind. And what Michael Gerber makes you do, right? Remember, we're talking about the context of creating a healthier business. And in order to create a healthier business, you got to know if you're running a business, my friends. And Michael Gerber does an awesome job in distinguishing whether you are creating a business or a job. And again, either one is okay. You must acknowledge where you are, though. And I love Michael Gerber's definition of a business, because if you think about you, where you are today, what box are you checking? You're in one or the other boxes, right? That's it. And you can be creating a business or you can be creating a job, but you can't be in both. Okay. So if we're going to call it a business, you have to be able to, this is Michael Gerber's definition. I love it. And I still think it's something that sets the context every time. This is a yes or no. Can you leave your current, whatever you've created, for 2 weeks unattached and have it be moving over those 2 weeks in the same manner as if you were there? So that means revenue generated, clients and patients and customers managed, right? Lights go on, lights go off, business as usual for 2 weeks without you there. So think about your current role. If you're currently involved in seeing patients and you need those visits to achieve your goals, then the answer is no. If you're currently seeing patients and you could step out of it, right, and not have someone else, well, maybe we could even say have someone else pick them up, but then I'd argue, why were you seeing them? So I'm just going to go with that. If you're currently seeing patients and you can't step out of that role until you hire someone, something like that, then you are currently in a job. And you can love it all you want and you can benefit from it all you want. But if you can't leave it, it's not a business. That means it doesn't have the systems and processes to work without you. That could include more staff. If we're going to talk about a healthier business, you have to understand is, am I creating an ongoing job for myself or am I creating a business? It's interesting because even these practices that grow, notice I'm not going to say the word scale, that grow and then sell, and the owner has to stay in it for a year or two. That is a practice that was a job. Because literally, if you can't step out of it at that time, if there wasn't someone doing the clinical practice while you were seeing patients and you can't step out of it, then it was not a business. So if I'm seeing patients and running the business, I can't expect to be able to leave this practice that I've created during a sell. I'm either going to have to continue to see patients, or I'm going to have to continue to run the business till someone else can afford to take it over. Because if I stop seeing patients, then someone has to be hired to see the patient. You guys can see where I'm going. Someone has to be hired to see the patients. Now, what does that do to the balance sheet? What does that do to the P&L, right? So again, if you are currently seeing patients heavily and managing the business, then you have created a job. So in this world of healthier business, now we could say, right, your ability to scale pretty much will tell you, right, and scaling, preparing to scale and then scaling is how you create a business. Growing something bigger as you continue to be in it every day. That's the other thing Michael Gerber really distinguishes, is working in the business versus on the business. And if you are getting busier and busier and you're surrounding yourself with more people while you stay in it, seeing patients all the time, running around, managing all of it also, then you are just creating a bigger job for yourself. And when it comes time to exit that job, you will not reap the benefits of someone who has created a business, of which you're very close to. Because if you're growing something, right, then it's another couple steps to start to scale it and look at what's it going to take to get me out of this role, get a practice manager in, and get me out of seeing patients, right? So that you can step out of it and the balance sheet still remains the same. Think about that. So you can grow something and you're really close to taking the next two steps you need to be to add huge value at the time of exit, but it's not a business. When the group comes in to take you to buy it for your exit, however the buyout works, we're not going to go into that today, right? They're then going to turn it into a business, but they're going to need the time to work whatever because of the cost and the hiring. It's going to take time to work you out of it. That's why they make you agree to stay so long, give you some money, and then pay you a salary to do the job, right? Until they can put new hires in there to implement and make the balance sheet look how they want it, because then it's a business, is what it is. It's no judgment, right? I just want to make sure everybody knows what they've chosen. So if we're going to have a healthier business, we first have to understand, do we have a job, or are we creating a business? I recommend creating a business because I want you to have this bigger asset at the end of all this. Because again, you can move through this while you created a job. And by the way, I have some clients that are still in the job mode and we're moving them out of that. And they could probably turn around and move their practice today, this year, and they would get far less than if they start to do the work to build that business. Because it's the systems. If you can step out, it's as simple as this, my friends, right? If someone gave you the money on Friday and you don't have to be there on Monday to run it, you're going to demand a far bigger price. This is zero judgment with staying in and treating people. If you're staying in and treating people, then you have to bring on practice management and make yourself obsolete, right? As the one running the business, right? So really, right, this is the first step to creating that healthier business. I would call this, right? I would call this other term I'm going to be using a lot, and I want you guys to focus on, is seeing the potential within your business. And the potential is that gap, right? That gap with where you are today and where it has the ability to get to. And I already alluded that. If you're already busting your ass and you got an actual space or three and you're still in job mode, I'm going to tell you that potential there is a lot bigger and the gap is a lot smaller than you think. And so you need to see the potential in that gap, in that business, and then you need to start to close the gap. So that healthier business, running creating, running a healthier business is step one. Am I still in job mode or business mode? Number two is seeing the potential in this. So if I haven't started to create the business, which is the systems and the processes for scaling it up without me, right? Without the focus on me, without me running it, without me treating patients. And again, it doesn't mean you can't do either of those. But if you haven't done that yet, right, then it's not going to be a healthy business. And the potential gap, by the way, I would say this too, the people coming in to buy you are looking at that gap, that potential. How quickly can we turn it into a business? How quickly can we expand on the inefficiencies that are there versus how quickly can we give him the money and get him or her the fuck out of there so we can start reaping the benefits of it. And the closer you are to the business side of it, the closer you are to the healthy business, the more money you will get, because they will, if you choose so, they will let you go in a heartbeat because they see that come Monday, this is reproducible, right? They've created the business. They have the scalability, the processes, the systems in place for growth. Remember, just saying we've been growing is not going to get you that multiple. That'll show up on your P&L, your bottom line. That'll show up in the price, but it ain't going to show up on the multiple. And as I like to say, it's not going to decrease the value. It's just going to stagnate the value. You'll get closer to just whatever that bottom line is, right? So thinking in this healthier business mindset, A, knowing, do I have a business? B, what is the potential in this business, is going to move you forward in making sure that you are building a bigger asset, right? A smaller asset would just be the one where you get whatever the fucking financials are and told you need to stay there for a few more years, which you may be happy to do. I want you to have choices. I want you to choose. Do I leave Monday or do I leave in 365? The choices come with the greater value, with the better business you built, with the healthier business you built, right? So thinking about, have I created this job versus this business? How much potential is in this? Can I see this potential? Because like I've used multiple times, you're closer to closing that gap than you think. Now, if you've created this business, now you're starting to identify this potential, or right, moving towards making sure you're creating the business, then you start to look at this potential we have to create something scalable and growable and more valuable. The next question becomes, these are all choices, by the way. Here's your third choice. Do I want to duplicate others or do I want to differentiate myself? There are buyers for both sides of that. This is a no judgment zone. Yet this is a zone I want you to have all the choices. You make the choices. I don't want you to get to that cell dango. They're trying to fuck me, because they're not. They're trying to pay you for what you created. Remember that, my friends. So the third thing is, did I differentiate or did I duplicate others? If you duplicated others, that's fine, right? Then you're going to go probably to one of the bigger groups, and they're going to look straight at your bottom line, and there's not going to be a lot of negotiations. Duplicating others probably is more of a transactional focus, visits, units billed, all kinds of stuff like that, right? Again, there are buyers out there for that. Or do you go the relationship route, right? So the differentiation becomes the experience for the people you serve. So again, number 3 is, right, are you duplicating others? Or are you differentiating? If you're duplicating, you're in this fourth thing I want to mention, you're in the transactional world. But if you want to differentiate, then you're in the relationship world, right? So have we created a job or a business? Do I see the potential here, right? Am I differentiating or am I duplicating, which then flows right into, am I in a relationship model of business or am I in a transactional model of business? The differentiation is the relationship side. That's creating those experiences. That's knowing who you best serve. That's not scheduling everybody who calls. That's understanding their journey in your business. That's building out systems and processes to build relationships. It's a non-transactional world. There are transactions taking place, but the focus is not on your insurance, your doctor's referral, your date of birth. It's focused on you. the potential user. By the way, this is payer model agnostic. This is not an in-network or out-of-network world. And by the way, most of my in-network people are starting to get this more and more every day. Some of them are going out of network. So, if they're going to exist in this hybrid world, they got to be less transactional. More than likely, they're going to be asking people for more money than they're paying them today. Now, more money does not equate with better service. More money does not equate to quality service. More money just relates to being comfortable having a cost conversation with your potential clients. All right. So, right, we kind of laid the foundation, kind of some of the objective stuff you got to do when you start thinking about selling your practice. And I really want you to get inside your head and decide, what are we going to create here? What are we going to sell here? Right? Are we going to sell a business or a job? Then based on that, right, either one, what is the potential in each of those to close a gap to get from the job to a business, or even a job to the sell, right? So you got to see the potential in the space. Then you got to understand, do you want to duplicate others, copy, and just grow the models that already exist that you can churn out? Or do you want to differentiate? And what that means is, do you want to go into more of a transactional mindset, or do you want to go into more of a relationship mindset? I'm going to tell you right now, writing "we are relationship minded" on your website is 0 steps to doing this. Right? When I do secret callers, I look at everybody's website. 99.9% of the calls I make are transactional at best. So it doesn't matter what it says on your website. It's, what are you telling people? What are you doing? What do your actions say? And when you call and it sounds like every other healthcare provider I've called in town, then you're transactional. You're duplicating, right? So those are the 4 big ones. Now, the last thing I want to put in your head here and now is, in order to do all this and do this work, because you may be 5 years into your practice, you may be 6 months into your practice, you may be 10 years into your practice or business. Here's the big takeaway from this, and probably the thing we'll start out with next episode, is to do all this work takes a courageous leader. You're all leaders because you stepped up and said, I'm going to create something. I'm going to go out and I'm going to take the risk. And kudos to you. Like I said, there's no judgment in this episode. There are people owning their jobs and doing a great fucking job and serving their community in it. And they know exactly what they're doing every day. They're doing great jobs. It's, again, living in that gray where people are lying in themselves, and then you're just fighting this losing battle and you're going to burn out. That's where burnout comes, is just not owning this. So it's going to take you being a courageous leader to own this stuff that we just talked about. And it doesn't matter what you've created to this date, 5 years ago, 10 years ago. It matters, how do you want to move forward from here? Owning those things we just talked about, and then going, how do I want to move forward from here? That takes a courageous leader. We can say there's a risk involved, yet the biggest risk is staying the course without any acknowledgement. The lowest risk is acknowledging it and playing it all out and making a choice, and then freaking full speed ahead on your choice. Again, either way, I would argue you're going to have a healthier business. But are you going to be a courageous leader and sit back and run through all of this, realize what you've created, and then decide, what do we want to keep moving forward with? And let's go full speed ahead on that. I'm going to live in the world of differentiation, relationships, bigger assets for tomorrow. So businesses, I think that's the future. I think that's your future. Right. And that's what we're going to keep talking about here on the next episode. So appreciate you coming in and talking about healthier businesses with me, and finishing up with, it takes a courageous leader to start to build a healthier business. And we'll get into some of those terms going forward. Cheers.